Good evening, everybody. Thank you guys for putting on this panel. It's been very educational. I know I've worked with these guys a lot over my career, and they're hard workers, so the community really owes them a lot for all the work that they have done, all the time that they put into it to assure what the mission of Safer Citizens is for. So thank you guys, I really appreciate it. So I guess I've had like 9 different speeches in my head, and after hearing that, I guess I can try to do a little bit of a comedy segue into it. In the words of Robb, the sheriff's race has kind of escalated kind of quickly, I guess. So we talk about qualifications, and I think about 2004 when I started here at the office, and I actually have to backtrack a little bit. I graduated from Western Michigan University with a bachelor's degree in aviation science and administration. I originally wanted to be a pilot. 9/11 happened, and I watched on the TV everyone run into that scene, and I realized that was really something that I wanted to do. I'm a first-generation law enforcement officer, and I really didn't know what I was getting into, but I knew that flying an airplane was fun. What those guys were doing was something important. My grandfather was a World War II vet. He always talked about how honored he was to provide a service to this great country. So that day kind of sparked something within me and brought me to basically where I am today. So fast forward to 2003 when I started to apply to every agency in the state of Illinois because I wanted to get in law enforcement. I didn't have very much luck until November of 2003 when McHenry County gave me a call and brought me in for an interview. I was 1 week away from giving up on this new dream of mine because it just wasn't happening. People wanted to be in law enforcement. The sheriff talked about, the troubles that we're having in recruitment. There's some chiefs out here, and they always say the same. No one wants to do this job anymore, which is unfortunate because it's a very honorable job, a very important job. So when I had the opportunity to interview, on that November date, the chief at the time, or captain I believe his title was at the time, put me through the interview. He came back in the office and gave me a conditional offer. I didn't know how to respond because I was so excited. Obviously, I took it. And it was right before Thanksgiving, so I was able to talk to my family on Thanksgiving that I was taking a job with McHenry County Sheriff's Office, and I was getting a law enforcement profession. January 2004, I was in the Illinois State Police Academy, class 400-80. I remember our motto still to this day, standing tall, ready for the call. Illinois State Police was an eye-opening experience for me. It was a militaristic academy, and they taught regiment. Something that I really didn't know about other than, some sports and how to be disciplined to your coaches. But this is something new. And once I started, I was all in. I liked getting up early, making my rack, getting to PT, going back, showering in 2 seconds to get in uniform for breakfast, getting back to learning, unless you screwed up, and going back to PT. But during those times, we had about 30 guys in our class, and we formed a really, really quick camaraderie. We realized that we couldn't move forward unless we were all together, because they wouldn't let us. And that really resonated with me and stayed with me, because they always talk about you're only strong as the weakest link. And we really took that to heart. And I understood that not just in the class, but as we progressed through law enforcement. A bad incident ruins law enforcement for years. We've seen it happen time and time again. And I think it's important for a leader to understand that one incident is just such a small fraction of what we really do. It's really the leader's job to rally the troops, to keep doing a good job, and to get out in the community and explain what it is that we do on a daily basis. So once I graduated, I got into FTO, and it was another interesting experience. My first night out, we got on a roll call, hopped in the squad. My FTO was driving. We started out south on 47, and a vehicle was approaching us with no headlights. He looked at me and said, "We're going to do a traffic stop." Fair enough. Pulled the vehicle over. As he's calling out the stop, I'm sitting in the passenger seat clueless because I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing at this point in time. He looks at me and goes, "You fast?" And I looked at him and I said, "Yeah, why?" He said, "This person's about to run." And right as he said run, driver comes, door flies open, and they take off. And I look at him, and I had this like crazy person grin because I was like, this looks like this could be fun. So I go chasing after the individual, tackler, handcuffer, the FTO being the experienced officer, ran the long route because he thought he was going to cut us off. He didn't realize I really was fast. And I had the individual cuffed. That was my first day on the job. And I knew that this is really something that I want to do because I knew I was doing something good for the community. It seems really, really small, but I knew right away what I was getting into. So I grew up through the department. I've been very, very blessed with this office. We have one of the best offices in the state, surrounded by some of the best local law enforcement agencies in the state. This community is very, very blessed to have good, professional law enforcement. And I think that, that's a tribute to, the individuals that have been in office right now that allow us to continue the upwards trajectory of professionalism in our agencies. So as I grew up through the department, I was able to make my way through the detective division. I was part of the ICAC task force, that's the Internet Crimes Against Children task force. I worked hand in hand with Pat on many cases when he was an assistant state's attorney and had the understanding of what it meant to make sure that justice was served for the victim. Because there's nothing like losing a court case and looking at that victim and feeling like you didn't do any, you didn't provide the service to them. So I learned through that process. I was promoted, after being in the detective division with a great job, you get promoted, you go back to midnights. And when you get promoted, everyone treats you differently. You don't know why, but because you become one of them. You're in administration. You're no longer a police officer in the eyes of the rank and file. But it wasn't that way for me. I was there to mentor my shift and make sure that they were put in a position to succeed every single night. And I learned that from my supervisors. And I joined a group of individuals that take this profession to heart. I'm honored to be part of a group of individuals that day in, day out show up, do the best they can, and they try to leave at the end of their shift a little bit better than when they started. So when I got through the midnight shift, it was winter of 2011. Does everyone remember that blizzard that we had? And we understood what it meant to deal with, natural disasters, for lack of better terms. We put together shift work to make sure that people were able to effectively still provide a service to this community. I was moved back to the evidence division, where I cleaned up the evidence room and made it in an organized fashion where anyone, even anyone from civilian side of the house, could come in and find an item on the evidence shelves. Every step I took, I learned something new and learned something more. When the sheriff came in office, I remember that day after he got sworn in, there was the recession limit. I guess that would be the proper term for that. And we all introduced ourselves. And I finally made my way up to the sheriff, and I said, "Hello, Sheriff, my name is Robb." He looked at me and he goes, "Tiedemann, I recognize that name. I'd never met them." And I walked away going, "I'm fine." The only reason why you know someone is usually because you did something wrong. But, the sheriff saw something within me that he knew I could lead this department. So he took me aside one day and asked if it was something, that I want to do. And I never had a relationship with the prior administration of the sheriff like I do with the sheriff I do now. And we talked about it. And he told me that he thought I had it within me to lead this agency. And I looked at him and I said, "Let's do it. I'm ready." That was 6 years ago now. So over the past 6 years, I've worked in internal affairs, where I've worked on policy, worked on professionalizing, and making sure that our general orders match the needs of the community and the ever-evolving statutes of the state. The sheriff asked if I'd be willing to do the recruitment aspect of it as well. I went and learned more about recruitment, helped him providing, a social media specialist to help do that marketing aspect, because we're police officers, we're not marketing. I learned that we have to continue to provide a positive environment to bring people in. I talked about when I attest back in 2003, there was 300 people that applied for the position of 1 or 2 open spots. We just had our testing. We had 100 people, just over 100 people sign up. We had 70 show up for the test. Only 40 passed the power test. And I guarantee you, after we get our written results, we're going to be down to 20 or 30 people. And of those 20 or 30 people, we're going to find maybe 2 or 3, just by numbers. We have 5 open spots in the sheriff's office right now. We have to do something different. And I think Safer Citizens talk about accountability. How do we hold the sheriff accountable? If he's not doing his job, we vote him out. If he's doing his job, he's providing that service, he's working with the citizens, we won't have issues like we see in Cook County, like we're starting to see in Lake County. I'm proud to say that since 2016, crime has been going down in this county because we are well trained. We work hard. We work with our community. We work with our state's attorney. So there's new rules that I've taken. I've gotten to experience a little bit more and more in the department, and I think every time you grow up and you reach a new level that's higher in the rankings, your vision opens up a little bit more, and you get exposed to more things. The sheriff's office has, last I checked, 370 employees, I think is what my email says, maybe a little bit more now, but
379 FTEs.
there you go.
About 450 output.
So that's a lot of individuals on a lot of different areas. The sheriff's office isn't just about patrol. We have 170 individuals in the corrections side of the house. We have court security officers. We have records clerks. We have civil process servers. There's a lot of aspects with the sheriff's office, especially in a time right now that is dire for law enforcement, for someone who knows what they're doing to step in. I'm currently doing that. I'm involved in all those aspects. I've sat in meetings with Mike Bueller and the county board to get the budget right, to make sure that we're doing things by statute, because it's not about making a deal with my buddy so I can save a buck or two. We have rules. I'm learning those rules. We do those rules. We are professional. I currently work with the state's attorney's office. We talk about what was known as House Bill 3653, which is now Public Act 101-0652. I've read that thing. It's awful. It demonized law enforcement. But we worked hard. We worked hard with the state's attorney's office, with local law enforcement agencies to get it right. And we're working on it day in and day out. We need to continue to work on it. We need someone who knows what they're doing while they're making this county better. I think about, my grandpa talked about the American dream. Super simple. Go to school, get an education, get a job, get married, have kids. I messed that up. Get married, buy a house, have kids. Swingers. Buy a house and make their life better than yours. Law enforcement is seen as the answer to all the problems. We're a remedy to a lot of problems. How do we hold law enforcement accountable? We hold law enforcement accountable for doing their job, to protect and serve. It's very simple. It's our job to protect every individual with dignity. And we do that very well in McHenry County, not just with the sheriff's office, but our local law enforcement agencies. I'm proud of that. The sheriff talked about a training facility. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of voices. We're doing that so we can share our resources to better serve you guys, to better serve us, because we live out here.
Thank you, Rob.